Welcome back to the Big Bid Theory. As is the usual, I'm Bill Culhane along with Jim Ward, and not a lot of time for pleasantries. We have a special guest from California's Department of General Services, tonight's crazy bid, and the TBBT band. Well, they're quietly getting ready to come on, so let's get cracking. Jim, as always, great to see you. After our visit with Angel Carrera here in a minute, I got word, as a matter of fact, I saw a note on the bulletin board, you're preparing to possibly go very far away?
Hey, Billy boy, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well, Jim.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear. It's what I wanted to hear. Yes, no, Bill, I've got this could be our last podcast ever, depending on how things fall from this crazy bid, because I could be going to Mars. And it's a legitimate crazy bid that I'm going to try to win.
So somebody scribbled it up on the bulletin board. So it's Mars. I thought somebody said you're going to Cars.
Yeah, well, I was going to see the Cars and Rick Ocasek. By the way, amazing producer, but I digress. So yes, I'm going to Mars.
Okay, well that's certainly, that may be the craziest bid yet. Anyway,
it's going to be cool. I mean, well, it's going to be really cool. It's going to be cold as hell, but anyway, yeah.
Before we get to Jim's review on that government bid, it's time to visit with a very special guest. And, you know, one thing that Jim and I have we've talked about since the inception of the podcast so long ago, this podcast belongs to everyone with any stake in public sector procurement, and literally from sea to shining sea. For those of you who have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know most recent guests have been from Maine and Texas, just as two examples. Well, now we're going to go west to California, and we're very appreciative to bring on Mr. Angel Carrera, who's the Chief of Small Business and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise and Outreach Services at the California Department of General Services. Angel has held a wide variety of positions, notable positions in business for California, including as an appointee of California Governor Jerry Brown and former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. A quick qualifier, folks, just tuning in. Our returning listeners understand, but keep in mind that this information, our conversation with Angel, is primarily for you if you're in California, certified in California, or are considering doing business in California maybe at some point down the line. Angel, we sure do appreciate you joining us. How are things over there in the Golden State?
Good morning, Bill. We could use a little rain.
I mentioned to Jackie this morning that we had a lot of rain here in Texas over the weekend, but we sure did need it.
Well, I wish you could share some of that because we equally need it.
Very good. Well, we'll work on that. But now we'll get to the matter at hand, Angel. I'm a proud veteran of our nation's armed forces, served in the Air Force for over 9 years. So people who are working on behalf of our nation's best have certainly a special place in my heart. So our listeners understand your role, Angel, and that of your department. What services and solutions do you provide?
Well, the California Department of General Services, we are the business manager for California state government. And in doing that, we have two special programs called the Small Business Program and the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Program. Those two programs are set to level the playing field, if you will, for California small businesses and disabled veteran business enterprises. So those two programs, I'm the branch chief in effectuating that program for all the state agencies of which California government has. That's approximately 200 different state agencies. And what we try to do is to ensure that small businesses as well as disabled veteran business enterprises get their fair share of the government contract spend. The state of California spends approximately $9 billion, that's a B, dollars a year in goods and services, and we want to make sure that 25% for small businesses get that fair share, and 3% of our disabled veteran business enterprise get their fair share. And that's my office is responsible to certify the small businesses and DVBEs to enable them to participate in our California contracts.
I love hard targets because sometimes, things are so subjective. So it's good to know that California, you have numbers. If I can ask you this, Angel, how is California doing as far as meeting those targets?
That's a very fair and at the same time a very strong question. I'm happy to say that last year the California state government achieved both their 25% small business participation goal as well as a 3% DVBE goal. I'm even more proud to say in the last 6 years, the disabled veteran business enterprise goal of 3% has been met by California state government. It's unofficial. I know I'm in public radio, but it looks like this year the state is going to meet their goal again for small business participation of 25%.
Perfect. Congratulations. That's great to hear, and I know our listeners applaud you folks as well. To kind of change gears here, Angel, and our listeners understand some rules and regulations are standard, pretty much cookie cutter from state to state, but every state, of course, has their own requirements to do business in the state. California, I'm sure, is no different. What are a few requirements business leaders must know for small business and DVBE certification?
Okay, for small business eligibility requirements, to be eligible for the small business certification, the business must meet the following criteria. They must be independently owned and operated. They cannot be dominant in the field of operation. The principal office is located in California, and owners or officers in the case of a corporation domiciled in California, together with their affiliates, can either a business with 100 or fewer employees and have an average annual gross receipts of $14 million or less over the previous 3 tax years, or a manufacturer with 100 or fewer employees. That's the small business eligibility requirements. Now, for the disabled veteran business enterprise, if you will note, I will not make any reference to gross annual receipts. That is only for the small business. For the disabled veteran business enterprise eligibility requirements, the DVBE, as we call that, DVBE, be at least 51% owned by one or more disabled veterans. And what the definition of a disabled veteran is that for the certification purposes, a veteran of U.S. military, naval, or air service has a service-connected disability of at least 10% or more as declared by the United States Department of Veteran Affairs or the United States Department of Defense, and they must be domiciled in California. Seems
pretty straightforward.
Hey, Angel, this is Jim Ward with the Big Bid Theory, co-host with Bill here. How are you doing this lovely morning?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with you both.
Well, first off, let me say congratulations on meeting your numbers, because I know what they are nationally. Nobody meets their numbers. So to get that 3% for your DVBE is very impressive. So a couple questions here. First off, our listeners tend to be very plodding, if you will. Don't want to call them slow. But if you could just detail, I know you've gone over it a little bit, but what are the benefits of being certified in the state of California?
Well, we have a number of benefits that we consider for our small business and DVB program. One of which is that small businesses receive a 5% bid preference, and may offer, and the state can offer up to a 5% incentive to DVBEs in a formal competitive bid process as well. As a California certified small business and or a disabled veteran business enterprise, their business is added to the Department of General Services database, of which state agencies in California can find small businesses or disabled veteran businesses enterprise as they have a need to solicit for bids. Also, small businesses are eligible under what we refer to as the Prompt Payment Act, for higher interest penalties for late undisputed invoice payments. For instance, if a department is holding up a payment for a small business and it's undisputed and it's past the 45-day requirement of which we have to pay our small businesses, then when they do finally get paid, I don't even like saying that, but when they do finally get paid, they will receive a higher interest rate for the state holding up their payment. Also, the state has what we call a California State Contracts Register, and that gives the small businesses or DVBEs electronic bid notices for the state's contract opportunities, as well as allows small businesses or DVBEs to post bids on the contracts register to whereby they can market themselves to potential prime contractors who may have a desire to use them as subcontractors on a given state contract bid.
Okay. That right there alone, that's a very, very helpful feature, because I think I would say so many vendors that we come across with have to go that route and come under the person who wins the bid, and having that information hard to aggregate makes it very difficult on them. So, and I guess one last question. California right now, world's 8th largest economy, seems to be doing well. I know there's a lot of changes happening in Sacramento, but why is right now a good time for vendors to do business in the state of California?
Well, we are blessed with our economy improving in the state of California, and as we go up and down the state in kind of the evangelists, if you will, and sharing the virtues of doing business with California state government, because we have a lot of infrastructure projects currently going on with the state of California. We have the California high-speed rail, more commonly referred to as the bullet train, that the state is embarking in. There's millions of dollars involved, and of course eventually there'll be billions of dollars involved in the development of that high-speed rail. There's a number of Department of Transportation highway-related type projects, so infrastructure type projects with our Department of Transportation, the California high-speed rail, our Department of Water Resources with the issues of water and our levees and our storage of water, etc. Those are infrastructure projects that are going to be here to stay, and there's a lot of contracting opportunity pretty much from A to Z in those infrastructure projects. So it's not just limited to what we call construction, but there is a lot of public works projects in California. In addition, there's also a lot of information technology type projects in the state. So those lend itself to a number of IT related type procurement activity within the state of California.
Very good. Angel, it's Bill Culhane back on. Folks listening to the Big Bid Theory, Angel Carrera is from the California Department of General Services. My co-host, Jim Ward, still on board as well. Angel, if anyone would like more information, how can they go about getting more info, contacting you? Because you've been kind enough to cover a lot of information, but how can folks do some follow-up?
Surely. I like to share with the audience an email address as well as a telephone number. And these two pieces of information will help your audience with any questions they may have as it pertains to certification, one or both of the programs I've talked about, the small business or the DVBE program, or how to do business with California state government, and or I'm certified, now what? How do I navigate the state's purchasing process? We can be an answer to all those questions if your audience calls area code 916-375-4940. Again, area code 916-375-4940. And the email address is osdshelp@dgs.gov.
Very good, Angel. And just for our listeners, just to let them know, we will include the phone number and the email address that Angel was just kind enough to provide to us. We'll include that in the description of the podcast as well for your reference. Well, Angel, on behalf of our listeners, Jim and our entire staff here, we again thank you very much for joining us, and certainly thank you for the good work you and your team are doing out there in California.
You're more than welcome, and I offer the opportunity to speak to you and your audience again.
All right, well, very good. Well, again, that's Angel Carrera, who is from the California Department of General Services. So again, folks, there was our visit with Mr. Carrera. And Jim, if I was in doing business with or considering doing business in California, you listen to Angel Carrera, an obvious professional in every sense of the word. You have to feel good with leadership like that.
Very much so. I mean, what a great guy. Thank you again, Angel, and thank you, Jackie, for your help in this too. Yeah, the one thing, Bill, I've always thought about set-asides is, you hear so many different arguments about this group not getting this percentage and that group not getting that percentage. It got into my head, if I got to pick one group that should get set-asides, it's disabled veterans. You know what I mean? Because regardless of which side of the fence you're on pretty much any issue, somebody that went and fought for our country and was injured needs a break. You know what I mean? From like the greater good, so to speak. That's I don't know. That really got me.
Yeah, well, you know where I stand on the topic. And what about Mr. Carrera, and rightfully so, being so proud that the state of California are meeting their targets? Because you know this better than I do, to be quite honest. You look at the federal government, and you look at many states who talk about targets, they talk about numbers, and that's all they are. They're just concepts.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just read this article. Oh man, I think it was for women-owned small businesses, WOSBs, that out of like the 16.9 million available in this one sector for WOSBs, like only 16% of it was won by WOSBs, built just for lack of having them even bid on the others. So yeah, so they hit his numbers like that. That's just to give you some perspective. That's amazing. I mean, that's
and why Mr. Carrera and the folks out in the Golden State should be proud of that. So, as he offered, we will certainly invite Mr. Carrera back on as circumstances.
Oh yeah.
Looking ahead to season 2, but more on that a little bit later. Jim, crazy as it seems, not all crazy bids are limited to planet Earth. Well, what's that crazy bid you teased us with?
Yeah, no, first off, welcome to this edition of Crazy Bids that you can win. This bid is for NASA, and this is a real bid, and it was posted on September 14th of this year. The expiration date is in mid-November, and so it is for it's put out by NASA. And it's called Human Exploration Research Opportunities, NASA Research Announcement. To whittle this down, what this is it's going to take up to 12 people to train for research and development on space travel and the effects on your body. Okay, and so this is going to contain 6 elements: space radiation. Checking, by the way, folks, I'm going to do this. This is important stuff. So space radiation, Bill, I think I'm good with that. I'm pretty tough. Human health and countermeasures, again, check. I don't really know what that means, but I'm gonna think I can handle it.
Countermeasures. The word countermeasures doesn't scare you off?
No, because I'm going to Mars, man. Exploration, medical capability, sure, behavioral health and performance. Oh, geez.
There has to be waivers.
Exactly. Or I can just fake it. I don't know. I'm not above lying on my resume to get this one. Space, human factors, and habitability. There we go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I'd have to fake it again because generally people I would drive them nuts. And International Space Station Medical Project. Sure. So I think so far I'm good to go. What they're giving here is it's from $100,000 to $450,000 a year. So that's the actual bid. Now here's why I think it's a bid for something more than this. Bill, I think this is kind of NASA's version of Top Gun. You're kind of like Iceman, but I'm kind of like Maverick. You know what I mean?
You get mistaken for Tom Cruise all the time. You tell me.
Indeed, I do, my friend. Indeed, I do get mistaken for Tom Cruise quite often. I love Katie Holmes too, so we have that in common. But yeah, I would be Maverick because I would be the winner because I'm going to win this, and I get to go to Mars. Maverick, he just got Kelly McGillis and to ride up in the sunset on his motorcycle or whatever. I don't really remember how it ends. I know you lost.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's great. I just hope, and now I'm going to have to get out my calculator. I just hope that you're going to be back before we start season 2, as we wind down our first season.
Because of the hiatus, I totally forgot to mention that we do have this hiatus coming up, which we'll talk about towards the end. But the hiatus, there's only one show left. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Season 1, yes.
Yeah. While we're on the subject, because we are at the end, just to let everybody know that to carry you over the winter months and into the new year, we'll be putting out a best of. We'll have a podcast that is strictly Jim's voices. I know that one's just going to be off the charts. The TBB
No, we're not.
band, the TV. Anyway, we have some ideas. So stay tuned. We're not disappearing. We're just going to regroup. And
I'm going to Mars, man.
Jim will be in Mars, but if Jim is stuck on Mars, we'll find a way to have Jim still be a part of the podcast. Now next time for the finale of season 1, we visit with one of the Procurement Technical Assistance Center directors here in the U.S. And if you don't know about PTAC or you're a small to medium-sized business, it's a must-listen for you. Jim, as we wind down season 1, of course we were pleased and proud to have Mr. Carrera on. And as the band gets into position across the studio here, what else do you take away from this episode?
First off, Bill, looking forward to some good old time rock and roll by the Big Bid Theory Band. Guys, do. And just wanted to reassure our listeners, this hiatus, trust me, this is not like Fish or what more importantly, Widespread Panic, or the Grateful Dead, because trust me, I have suffered through those, having followed them. And there's an admission right there, huh, Bill? Want that on your resume, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Our hiatus is just for a bit, just for the holidays and whatnot. So we will be back, unlike the bands that we've all loved and followed, and all of a sudden they left.
Very good. Well,
bastards.
We do want to remind everybody, please download, share, and follow the podcast on iHeart, a part of iHeartRadio, of course. You can email me at bcolhane@bidprime.com or Jim at jward@bidprime.com. Our Twitter handle is @TheBigBidTheory. Jim's on Twitter as Jim Ward, the number 6. I'm contract_Hunter. For Jim, our staff who are now asking to take a site visit to California, we want to thank Angel Carrera and Jackie Cummings who helped make it all happen. And as always, thanks to you for listening in. Get ready for the TBBT band to close it all down. Until next time, go Gunners, Barracudas, Tigers, and Bobcats, and we wish you all the best in growing your business.
Ward out tomorrow.
We're having so much fun on the Big Theory. Yeah, Jim and Bill hosting a Big Theory. Bill seems to know his stuff much more so than Jim, and they're talking government procurement.